A Native American elder shows a petrified extraterrestrial alien heart, he claims, which he claimed belonged to the star people that they called Anu. The fact, Dr. Andre Six Killer Clark, a professor emeritus at Montana State University, who is Cherokee Choctaw, has been researching the star people, these extraterrestrials coming from the stars, and collecting encounters between them and Native Americans for many years. This article shares one of the many from the Native Indians. Reflect on are we alone? If not, what are the implications when the public becomes fully aware of this? How will it change the way we look at reality, science, technology, and history? Dr. R.D. Sixkiller Clark, Professor Emeritus, Montana State University, who is Cherokee Choctaw, has been researching the star people. Here's a great quote from the beginning of her book, Encounters with Star People, Untold Stories of American Indians, which is where this information comes from. I first learned about the star people when my grandmother told me the ancient legends of my people. My childhood reality included narratives that traced the origins of the indigenous people of the Americas to Pleiades, stories of little people who intervened in people's lives, and legends about the magical gift of the DNA of the star people that flowed in the veins of the indigenous tribes of the earth. I embrace the stories of the celestial visitors who lived among the Indian people as part of my heritage. The book is fascinating, to say the least, and describes many encounters of star beings, both benevolent and malevolent in nature. Since I've been a UFO extraterrestrial researcher for a very long time myself, she says, it's very interesting to see how some of these stories corroborate with some of the information I've come across from other sources over the years. The following story comes from an elder who believed that aliens not only once walked on this land, but that they continued to be living among us. And to prove his declaration, he displayed an alien artifact of a most personal nature, a petrified heart, which he maintained belonged to an ancient alien. His name was Sam, and he was a respected elder in his community. He worked at his community school as a surrogate grandfather counseling troubled youth. Clark had developed a relationship with Sam, who was 92 years old, at the time of this experience that Clark shared in her book. One day, among many others, they had a very spiritual conversation, and life on other planets came up. He told Clark that, quote, our ancestors knew a lot about the universe than anyone has acknowledged. I have something I want to show you, he said. And according to Clark, he pulled back the blanket on his lap and held up a bundle. My grandfather gave me this when I was a boy, he said. He was almost 90 years old at the time. I was 6 or 7. He unwrapped the object and handed it to me. He said, it's a petrified heart. I said, somewhat shocked by the object I was holding. Clark then proceeded to ask a number of questions. The elder answered, as Clark describes. This is the heart of a star traveler. If you look closely, you will see that it is not quite like a human heart. I turned it over in my hands and looked at it. Within the adult heart, there are 2 parallel independent systems, each consisting of an atrium and a ventricle. This heart was different. Instead of 4 chambers, as found in the human heart, it had 5 chambers with 3 auricles and 3 ventricles. Then I pointed out that out to Sam, and he nodded. He said the star people have hearts that are slightly different from ours. They beat much slower, too. According to my grandfather, the heart belonged to a star traveler. It was given to him by his grandfather, who obtained it from his grandfather, and so on and so on. Back in the old days, the star people lived on Earth. They mated with our women, and we became one with them. End quote. This sounds like Genesis 6, the Nephilim who mated with the women of the earth, the humans. Now, going back to this, the last point is interesting, that they used to live here among the indigenous populations. This corroborates with various other indigenous stories shared from many others as well. As far as mating and interbreeding, stories about quote-unquote gods interbreeding with human beings is also in the lore of not just indigenous people, but can be found in Christian Book of Genesis as well. Specifically, they are called the Nephilim. The elder went on to explain to Clark that they were here until the white man came, according to the elder. They knew the white man was coming to this land. They warned us and suggested that we leave this planet. Many spaceships came to take away the people. Some of the people went back to the stars to live. Many were strong-willed and stubborn and decided to stay behind. They believed they could resist the white man since they knew he was coming. They would have the advantage of spirit. It was not so. The white man's, we're talking about the Europeans. The Europeans had weapons that were greater, their words stronger, their numbers bigger. Some of the people even believed them to be gods and chose them over their own people. Our ancestors from the stars never came back to save us. We were left to our own destiny, he said. He then went on to describe his experiences with the star people and how he has been taken aboard crafts and seen many worlds and civilizations that lived in the past, off the land and not as technologically advanced yet. He was also told about the ones who abduct people and how many star groups avoided them, claiming that, quote, they are no longer humans. They intentionally bred from their race the ability to feel love, compassion, and pain, all emotions. They believed it would make for a better world. One without emotions could lead to greater achievement, advancement, end quote. The abduction phenomenon is very real and backed by a lot of great research from multiple professors and researchers. I published an article about it not too long ago, and if you're interested, you could read it here. The link says, now Sam passed away at the age of 97. A photo appeared in the local paper of him in a headdress of eagle feathers and a beaded shirt. The headline read, "The last chief of the Northern Plains dies." The takeaway, whether or not this story and others in Clark's book are true is not the point, although I have very little doubt that many of them are. It's truly a shame what happened in our recent past with regards to colonization, leading to the loss of many stories that were once prominent in indigenous culture because indoctrination ensued. And that was a dark time, a time that humanity is just beginning to climb out of. And I feel that's important to share stories that were once a strong tradition among the Native American indigenous people. We are not alone, and we are much more than we've been made to believe we are. And this is on Soul Ask. Please leave your comments, and thank you for your support. Please support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.